The neon, open 24 hours, sign flickered outside the old diner as rain tapped against the windows. Inside, the night shift dragged on. Sarah Lopez, only 25 but already carrying the weight of a woman twice her age, moved between tables with practiced grace. Her hair was pulled into a loose ponytail, her shoes worn thin, her smile tired but genuine. For Sarah, the diner wasn't just a job. It was survival. Her mother was sick at home, medical bills piling up higher than tips could cover. But she never complained. She had built her life on the belief that kindness mattered, even when life wasn't kind back. The clock above the counter ticked past midnight when the door swung open. Sarah's eyes lifted. At first, she saw just another customer. But her stomach dropped when the man lowered a ski mask over his face and pulled a gun from his jacket. "Everyone stay quiet, and no one gets hurt," he barked. His voice cracked, too sharp, too frantic. A couple in the corner booth gasped and ducked under the table. The cook peered out from the kitchen, frozen. Sarah stood at the counter, only a few feet from the trembling weapon pointed at her chest. For a moment, fear pressed down on her like a tidal wave. She could scream, cry, or collapse. But she didn't. Instead, she breathed. Slowly. Steadily. Her voice came out calm, even gentle. "Okay. It's all right. Just, don't hurt anyone." The man slammed his free hand against the counter, his nerves fraying. "The money. Now." Sarah's hands moved to the register. They didn't shake. She slid the cash toward him. Her eyes never left his. And for 1 second, one long, human second, he hesitated. Because instead of fear, he saw something unexpected in her gaze. Not judgment. Not hate. Just compassion. What Sarah didn't know was that she wasn't the only one watching. At the far end of the diner, in a shadowed booth, sat a man unlike any other customer. His shoulders were broad beneath a heavy leather jacket, patches stitched across its back. A gray beard framed his weathered face, and his eyes, sharp, unflinching, studied everything. His name was Mark Steele Donovan, president of the local Hells Angels chapter. He hadn't come for trouble. Just coffee. But trouble had walked in anyway. Steele watched the robbery unfold in silence. He had seen men break in the face of fear. Soldiers. Outlaws. Fighters. But never a young waitress, standing steady while a gun was pointed at her. When the robber finally snatched the money and bolted into the rain, the diner fell into stunned silence. The customers slowly sat up. The cook staggered out from the kitchen. Sarah leaned against the counter, her knees weak, the adrenaline crashing through her. And then Steele rose from his booth, his boots echoed as he crossed the room. The other customers tensed, whispering. To them, he wasn't a hero. He was danger incarnate. But Sarah didn't flinch. She looked up as he stopped in front of her. "You did good," Steele said, his voice low, calm, the kind of calm that comes from surviving storms. Sarah let out a shaky laugh. "I just didn't want anyone to get hurt." Steele studied her, his eyes narrowing not in judgment, but in respect. "Most people panic. You didn't. That takes something." She shook her head. "It takes being too tired to panic." Steele smirked faintly, but in his mind, he knew better. What he had witnessed wasn't exhaustion. It was courage. When the police arrived to take statements, Steele stayed in the background. But as Sarah prepared to go home, he stepped forward one last time. From his jacket pocket, he pulled a small card, no name, no words, just a phone number. He slid it across the counter. "If you ever need help," he said quietly, "call this. Doesn't matter what time it is. Doesn't matter why. Just call." Sarah stared at it, confused. "Why would you?" His eyes locked with hers. "Because people like you are rare. And men like me don't forget when we see it." Days turned into weeks. The robbery became just another news story. Customers mentioned it sometimes, but eventually, the world moved on. Sarah didn't. She carried the memory like a weight. She remembered the robbers shaking hands. She remembered the way fear tasted in her mouth. But she also remembered Steele's eyes, the way he had seen something in her no one else did. She tucked the card into her wallet, unsure if she'd ever use it. Then, one night, as she closed the diner alone, the bell above the door jingled. Her stomach dropped. The man in the ski mask stood there again. But this time, he wasn't alone. 2 others flanked him, harder, meaner, more desperate. "Remember me?" the leader sneered, his mask off now. His eyes burned with shame and rage. "You made me look weak last time. Tonight's different." Sarah's hands shook as they circled the counter. Her mind raced. She was alone. No customers. No police nearby. No escape. Except the card. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone and dialed the number. Minutes crawled like hours. The men jeered, mocking her fear. One grabbed a coffee mug and hurled it against the wall. "You thought you could embarrass me?" the leader hissed. "You'll pay for that." Sarah's heart pounded. She tried to stall. "You don't have to do this. You can walk away." They laughed. And then, it came. The low rumble of engines. Dozens of them. Like thunder rolling over the horizon. Headlights lit up the parking lot. The roar grew louder, shaking the diner windows. The 3 men froze, their bravado slipping. The door burst open. Steele walked in first, his presence commanding the entire room. Behind him came nearly a dozen Hell's Angels, their jackets heavy with patches, their boots striking the floor in unison. The robbers paled. The leader took one look at Steele's cold, steady eyes, and knew. He was outmatched. Steele's voice was calm, lethal. "You boys picked the wrong girl to mess with." The young men didn't wait for more. They bolted out the back, tripping over themselves into the night. The room went silent. Steele turned to Sarah, his expression softening. "You're safe now." From that night forward, Sarah's life changed. The angels didn't disappear. They became her silent guardians. Her car broke down. It was fixed before she even asked. Her mother's medication? A collection appeared anonymously at her door. Late shifts? There was always a bike parked across the street until she locked up. Steele visited often, always ordering coffee, always sitting in the same booth. But their conversations weren't about gangs or fear. They were about life. About struggle. About resilience. "You remind me of people I used to ride with," Steele told her once. "Not because you're tough with fists. But because you're tough where it matters, in here." He tapped his chest. Sarah smiled softly. "I don't feel tough." "You don't have to," Steele replied. "Real strength doesn't always look like it. Months later, Sarah helped organize a fundraiser for veterans at the diner. The place was packed, families, veterans, local officials, even reporters. She was nervous as she stepped up to the microphone. "I'm not a hero," she said honestly. "I'm just a waitress. But I know what it feels like to be scared. And I know what it means when someone shows up for you. That's why tonight matters, because no one should ever feel forgotten." The crowd applauded. But then the doors opened. One by one, Hell's Angels filed in. 30 men in full patch, their presence filling the room. The reporters stiffened, some reaching for cameras in fear. The air grew thick with tension. And then Steele stepped forward. He took the microphone, his voice steady. This woman stood calm with a gun in her face. She showed more courage than most men I've known. And when she needed help, she wasn't afraid to ask. That's loyalty. That's strength. That's what we stand for. And that's why we're here, to stand with her. The room erupted. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. And for once, the headlines weren't about fear or outlaws. They were about loyalty, courage, and unexpected bonds. Sarah never thought of herself as special. She was just a waitress trying to survive. But to the Hells Angels, and to everyone who heard her story, she became proof that true courage isn't loud. It doesn't come with fists or weapons. It comes with calm in the face of fear. And Steele's choice, his next move, that shocked everyone, wasn't violence. It was honor. He chose to stand by her, to make the world see that even the most unlikely people could be family. From that night on, Sarah never faced the world alone again. Because sometimes, all it takes is one act of courage to earn a loyalty that lasts forever.